It was October 21st, 2021, and I was in the market for a new camera. And like most photographers, content creators, camera tech gurus, and Gerald Undone, the announcement of the Sony A7IV had my attention.
The Sony A7IV.
The long-awaited Sony A7IV.
Here it is, the A7IV.
Sony Alpha 7 Mark IV.
You see, as a Canon shooter, I was well aware of Sony's high reputation in regards to video quality, but when looking at premier video-centric cameras like the Sony A7S III or the FX3, I was a little worried that the lower megapixel count would impact my stills in a negative way. So as someone who focuses equally on both photo work and video work, and values a camera's ability to do both very well, this was the perfect camera for me. A true hybrid camera that excels at two similar but very different aspects of my work. The A7IV features a 33 megapixel full-frame sensor, live streaming capabilities, card slots, a good old flippy screen, the A7IV was ticking all of my hypothetical boxes. I was in love. I feverishly spent every chance I could digesting every last juicy detail about it. I read preview after preview, looked up comparisons, and stayed up late watching any YouTube video that even so much as mentioned anything remotely related to A7IV. Wow. But then I hesitated and started asking myself if it would just be easier to stick with Canon. After all, I knew the system like the back of my hand and I already had Canon glass. It was as if Canon and Sony were in a duel for my loyalty, and I had to make a choice.
Don't fight over me.
No, why don't we split the order? It's only fair.
No, wait, no, I'm buying, I make the rules. I actually do want you to fight over me. I want to be wined and dined at 69.
Oh.
Ultimately, I was convinced that the A7IV was the direction I was going in. I packed up my Canon gear and shipped it off to be sold online, and I truly couldn't be more excited to finally have a camera that was going to meet all of my needs. So here's 3 reasons why I chose the Fuji X-T4 instead. To be honest, Fuji wasn't even on my radar until it was recommended to me by a friend. As I started to do my research, the more I started to discover that a lot of what Fuji offers aligns with my personal style and what I was looking for in a camera. Switching entire systems is a scary, but more notably, a costly investment. Not only do you have to consider the camera body and its capabilities, but also the family of lenses that are going to support it for hopefully the next few years. And so the first reason that I switched to Fuji was because of cost. When breaking down the features of each of the cameras from a cost perspective, I found that for what I was looking for in a camera, I was going to save a lot more money by first and foremost buying used, but secondly, sticking with an APS-C. When I started researching for some of the best alternatives for an excellent hybrid APS-C camera, it was hard to come across a list that didn't feature the X-T4. Comparing them side by side, there were a lot of similarities between the X-T4 and the A7IV that, again, for what I needed, didn't justify spending the extra money on the shinier, newer camera, as the Fuji was going to provide me a lot more bang for my buck, so to speak. Additionally, when comparing prices between the two camera bodies and comparable lenses for each, it was clear that the X-T4 was the more cost-effective route for what I wanted to achieve. In the end, knowing that I could shoot high-resolution stills, 4K, 10-bit internal footage, have IBIS, have a flippy screen, and save thousands of dollars in the process, this was kind of a no-brainer for me. Another reason I made the switch to Fuji, and probably the biggest reason, was the design and ergonomics. Growing up with film cameras, there's something special about the tangible process of analog photography that can't be reproduced on digital cameras. Fuji gets really close. It's no secret, and it really can't be denied, but Fuji makes beautiful cameras. For me, the experience of photography is as important as the photographs themselves. And so the inclusion of dials and body designs similar to what you would find on older film cameras, brings me back to the slower, more intentional process of making photographs. I love knowing that I can glance down at my camera and without even turning it on know exactly what settings I'm using. It gives this really special hybrid feel of shooting both analog and digital at the same time, and I love it. I know that that's such a silly reason to choose a camera, like the way it looks, but there's something about looking at a camera on your shelf and immediately wanting to just get it in your hands and start making things with it. It's a feeling I haven't felt in a long time. It's a design philosophy that's simply not found on any other brand of APS-C or full-frame cameras. And to be honest, it's reinvigorated my love for making photographs, which for a while was starting to feel like I was just operating computers and not a camera. Speaking of film, the last reason that I chose the Fuji X-T4 is because of Fuji's color science. It's no secret that Fuji has been in the film business for decades, and those classic color palettes that film photographers have known and loved are really the core inspiration behind Fuji's well-known film simulations. Listen, I've always shot RAW. It's almost sacrilegious these days to say that you shoot otherwise. And while I really enjoy the editing process, it can sometimes take me hours or even days to get through a full set of photos. For client work, that makes sense. I'm willing to put in the time and the effort to get the best results possible. But when I'm shooting personal documentation, everyday type of photos, truthfully, I just don't want to put in that kind of time or effort to get good images. So when I found out that Fuji film cameras could apply a multitude of provided presets based off of classic film stocks, and that I could produce beautiful, high-quality JPEGs straight out of camera, I initially didn't believe it. By shooting in both RAW and JPEG, I can send the JPEGs straight to my phone using the Fuji app with little and no editing to be shared or sent straight away. This has been such a massive benefit to my workflow, and while it may seem to some that this only saves a little bit of time,
many small time make big time.
And what are you gonna do with all this time?
SeaWorld.
Additionally, being able to save what the Fuji community so lovingly refers to as film recipes, I can get an even larger variety of looks with excellent results straight out of camera, and this is something that I don't think any other camera can do. But because I also still have the RAW file, if I do need to make some adjustments, or maybe I didn't expose properly, because sometimes that happens, I do have the flexibility in post to go and fix those RAW files. I never thought that I would see the day where I would almost prefer to shoot in JPEG, but alas, here we are. So there's my reasoning for choosing the X-T4 over the A7IV. I know that comparing APS-C to full frame seems silly. Regardless, Sony was the route that I was planning to go to, and I had to consider if that was the right route for me. And it wasn't. And that's not to say that the X-T4 is perfect either. You know, I knew full well going into it that the autofocus sometimes leaves something to be desired. Put in the time and the effort to get the best results possible. But in my own experience, it's been few and far between, and that's a compromise I'm willing to make if the rest of the experience makes up for it. And that's honestly the question that we should really be asking ourselves. It's not, is this the perfect camera? But rather, is this the perfect camera for me? Ultimately, this isn't a knock against Sony or the incredible A7IV. One of these days I would love to get my hands on it. Who knows, I might even still get it. Maybe. At the end of the day, however, cameras are a tool to create, and rather than chasing the best specs available or buying a camera because that's what all the other cool kids are buying, I decided to go with the tool that made the most sense for me and my needs, and that was the Fuji X-T4. That's gonna be it for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you use the A7IV or the X-T4 and why you use one over the other, or what you enjoy most about your camera. If you found something of value or laughed or was simply entertained, it would mean so much to me if you gave this video a thumbs up. YouTube is still very new to me, and I created this channel 2 or 3 months ago with the intent of making videos like this one. So if you like what you see, subscribe. That would mean a whole lot. Anyways, enough rambling. I'm done. Until the next one, go out, be kind to one another, and create something. Peace.
Ha ha ha.